Growth is both an opportunity and a challenge. The opportunity is that everyone working in the organization has the ability to grow. The challenge is with that growth, people want to engage more critically in every decision. So as you grow rapidly, the number of people in your organization expands, yet everyone still wants to be engaged in every decision. And that's just not possible at some stage.
Probably the biggest one is the maintaining of the culture. It's easy to hold a culture when you've got 3 people in a room all working together because everyone knows each other, they knows what's going on, and the norms become very easy. What I've seen as companies and the companies I've been involved with have grown is trying to maintain that culture as you become further and further away from kind of the day-to-day operations. Maintain that culture, and then in a lot of places in the country, especially like where I'm from in Austin, is hiring, training, and retaining employees is always a huge headache.
Hypergrowth for an entrepreneur creates some problems, but I'd a lot rather have those problems than going in the other direction. The main one is client problems. So if you can't service your client, the one who's paying the bills, you've got problems. What you have to do, particularly if you've overhired, you're ready for that hyper growth that's going to happen. And I think that's one of the reasons I like to overhire early, because you don't want to change horses. You don't want to have to hire a new CFO right in the midst of a super growth period. So at a prior company, we actually staffed up the customer support functions before we had any customers. So we wanted them ready to solve problems when they came.
Well, hypergrowth, it's a wonderful problem to have, but it certainly creates a series of challenges. And I think, first of all, focus. So amongst a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of moving pieces. Where are you going to focus? How do you know the things that you need to keep an eye on? Because it becomes more difficult to keep an eye on everything. So you always have to have priorities. I think you have to have measures and benchmarks in place so that you have warning systems, because hypergrowth can get you unfocused on some key things, and it can actually be a problem.
I think the main problem that a growth-oriented company encounters is building a management team that can survive for the future. You're obviously undergoing tremendous change with the company in growing from, say, 5 million in revenue to 10 to 20. That's a lot of organizational change that has to be managed by a team. And so if you're a CEO, you want the assistance of a good firm in order to build and evaluate a great team. And so that's really the number one thing.
It's just making sure that you're staffed up with people and you don't let the quality drop as you're doing that.
Well, the biggest problem is that you need a lot of capital to fund your growth if you're not spitting out a bunch of cash or profit from your business. And so knowing when to go raise capital and who to bring in as your partners to help you do that becomes real tricky when you're growing real fast. I think the second problem is you can get ahead of yourself, because growth does not happen in a linear fashion. And so if you get ahead of even hyper growth, it's very hard to slow down quick enough and not spend too much money and find yourself running out of capital.